皆様、おはようございます。本日は楽天オプティミズムに、お越しいただきまして、ありがとうございます。楽天モバイルの、山田でございます。今日パネリストの方が皆さんちょっと英語ベースですので、ここからちょっと英語に変えさせていただければというふうに思います。Thank you very much for coming to Rakuten Optimism. As our chairman, Miki, just mentioned, Rakuten will launch our 4G service October this year and 5G service next spring using very innovative network architecture, and we are very, very excited about disrupting the entire telco industry, maybe not just in Japan, but hopefully globally. And we have a wonderful set of speakers, true global leaders in their respective fields, all from companies that are helping us realize our vision. So let me, introduce each one of them one by one. To my left is Bhaskar Gorti. He's the president of Nokia Software. Let me read this. As the head of Nokia's software business group, he's responsible for Nokia's 3 billion euro business, network and vendor agnostic software business globally. And to left of Bhaskar is Nozomu Watanabe-san. He's a senior VP at NEC, and we just announced our partnership for 5G antenna with NEC. And Watanabe-san is the head of company's wireless business, including 5G and future network technologies. And to the left is Dave Ward. He's senior vice president, Dave is chief technology officer of engineering, chief architect, and a senior vice president at Ciscos, networking and security business, driving innovators across Cisco's platform, product, and solution portfolio. And to the farthest left is Tareq Amin. He is Rakuten Mobile's CTO, and he was instrumental in launching Reliance Jio, the network in India that Miki just mentioned, that got 330 million users in 3 years. What an achievement, and he was one of the key people there for their success. So let me start this discussion by presenting a very high-level question that everyone's asking. So what is so different about 5G, and how is it going to transform not just people communication, but various industries, from the ground up. So, and maybe you can, we can introduce how Rakuten is approaching this 5G, agenda. So maybe you want to kick off, Tareq?
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. What a privilege it is for me to be with you today, talking about a topic that's very dear to my heart, which is networks. Maybe what I thought I would start with you is to give you the journey of how Rakuten Mobile started to think about changing the telecom industry, not just in Japan, but across the world. In June of 2018, we had an option. The option is we build a network no different than how networks get constructed across the world, not just in Japan. And we all thought we could do better. We could do better because our company culture, DNA, revolves around innovation and disruption. And the idea was very basic. In IT, cloud computing was a dominant technology that has pushed efficiency, innovation, service acceleration, reliability. And the question that when we all face each other said, well, what happened in telecom? For the past 20 years, we argue that nothing really has happened in telecom. We just changed the Gs, 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. But the way networks gets deployed believe me, it's complex. The way you as consumers receive services is too slow. I would argue innovation in telecom has been really very little. And we thought we could change that, and we could change it for the better. So, as exciting as 5G is, I think what we are very thrilled about is the foundation that we are changing the architecture of telecom networks. Taking telecom networks to a cloud computing platform is something actually new in the industry. It isn't something that you could go and say, hey, Nokia, please give me a cloud platform to build end-to-end, or Cisco. It required Rakuten Mobile to become an ecosystem creator. And this is actually very unique to find Nokia, Cisco, NEC. Actually, I would argue, in a certain extent in the previous word, they're competitors. But today they are partners determined to bring innovation to Japan, bring disruption to consumers, because I do believe that it is well overdue that we do something good in terms of consumers and services in telecom. So one is the architecture of 5G that Rakuten is building is extremely different, very innovative. It is software driven, it is more agile, it's resilient, reliable, and it lives in the cloud. That is a huge, huge difference. And as you heard Mickey talking about, the attention that Rakuten Mobile is getting globally was a very pleasant surprise. But we did not build this network just to get attention globally. We built it to disrupt the current status and help bring disruption to all of you. And hopefully you will see this very soon. So with that, I think, Yoshi, our approach is a lot different. Our approach is about ecosystem and partnership with the right mentality from vendors like Nokia, NEC, and Cisco.
So Bhaskar, I'm sure that you work with many operators around the globe. What would you like to add something to it?
Sure. I think picking up on what Miki-san said in his talk, just like in 2007, iPhone completely transformed and disrupted the device handheld. So it's like the car, and now what Rakuten is trying to do is change the infrastructure that this car runs on. And as we go around the world, I think what you're thinking about, first of all, as Tareq said, bringing a partner ecosystem to really deliver the next generation of network and services. Because, till now, 1, 2, 3, 4G was about communication and maybe some entertainment and some productivity. I think 5G is going to be not only that, but a lot about personal and business and enterprise productivity. And that requires a completely different way of doing it. And I think what Rakuten is embarked on is one of the fewest that we have seen in the world right now.
So Dave, I think many people look up to you as kind of the visionary in many fields.
I'm also tall.
You're also tall. From your standpoint, what do you think about 5G, and what is Cisco's role in transforming the industry?
So the way we look at it is actually very close to the way Miki-san described it. Not only is it about how to build a new architecture for telecommunications, but that the foundation for changing society is based on communication. And look, very few people in the world have a vision for what society could be as big as Miki-san's. And to incorporate a fan experience at a stadium, how one receives medical care, how someone will interact with their vehicle into their future, he came to Cisco and said, I want to build a brand new communication platform for Japan and for the world. And he picked up and worked with Tareq to make this architecture come together. And where I'd like to go with this is that many other telecommunications vendors in the industry believe that a cloud platform is too early. And what's interesting, talking with Tareq and with Miki-san, is no, they believe it's here now, and I agree with them greatly. That the incorporation of edge computing, the incorporation of service delivery with a common identity, privacy, and security becomes really key. And so we've evolved our portfolio over the last several years, and will continue to evolve it towards the goal, and towards the goals that Miki-san laid out, and towards this architecture of a cloud platform to deliver communication services. Because the more and more people are communicating and incorporating the communication platform into all aspects of their lives, the devices they carry, the cars they drive, the medical services, et cetera, and public services they receive, we have a chance to move to a whole new plateau. And so we've evolved our portfolio along these lines and will continue to do so to enable communications, to have a common identity, to incorporate all your devices with privacy and security. And those become very, very key principles to the pillars that we hold.
So you maybe can you elaborate on some of the things that Cisco is doing in the telco industry? You know, I think a lot of people know Cisco as a networking company, but maybe some people outside of the telco industry may not necessarily see you as such a big presence in the telco industry.
So without a doubt, we have the #1 of all packet core, mobile core in the world. We carry the largest amount of internet traffic through our portfolio and our routing portfolio, and so we've been deeply in telecom for well over 2 decades. And towards that end, we continue to work in optical and optics. But what's different about, as Tareq said, the way the internet has been designed in the past was very much a vertically integrated solution. And the ecosystem approach that we all need to take as vendors to build networks like this becomes key. So towards this end, even though we may be known as an IT company, our approach to a 5G architecture is to be spectrum agnostic, meaning that there's a seamless ability to move across Wi-Fi, cellular, and other forms of access technology without requiring new passwords, without requiring a change in identity, without requiring basically you to be identified on the internet by the way you access the internet. And really move a plateau up to realize that our role in the industry is if you want it on the internet and you want to deliver the services on the internet, we want to be the foundation of that communications platform. So as we step forward, we realize that the goal that Tareq has had, which is, Dave, your portfolio can't be static. It has to move not only at the speed of software, but at the speed of entrepreneurs out there as well. And you need to partner with all of them and partner with traditional folks we work with like Nokia, NEC, and others in the industry, because this is not an experiment in technology. This is a business, Tareq, that you're building and that Miki-san is building, and that business platform becomes key to be able to enable all that was mentioned.
I don't want to just focus on that, Dave, but just picking on the one of the points that you mentioned to kind of illustrate a very tangible, easy to understand kind of question. What do you think is going to happen when 5G is prevalent and you can access it anywhere? What is going to happen to Wi-Fi? Because some people say that once you have 5G everywhere, maybe you don't really need Wi-Fi. That's a very kind of a tangible, like everyday life question that many people can easily relate to. Can you maybe explain?
Sure. I think anyone who thinks that Wi-Fi is going to decline is in the marketing business and not in the technology business. Wi-Fi and cellular communications are very compatible with each other. And as we know in our day-to-day lives, we want to be able to use both spectra. We want to use Wi-Fi and cellular at the same time, depending where we are, indoors, outdoors, retail, stadiums, manufacturing, enterprise. These different radio frequencies, I would actually like to have a seamless integration across these different types of spectrum and these different types of access, such that you can move between one and the other seamlessly. And the notion of roaming is not between carriers, but the notion of roaming is roaming between Wi-Fi and cellular seamlessly. We know that there are multiple radio spectrums being used in the world for IoT. In industry, we know that there's spectra being used for agriculture and long distance ranges. The difference between these spectra is important to those industries based on distance, power, and bandwidth. But for the everyday user of them, they just want to be able to use them all. And so there will be a very, very long-lasting life for all of these different spectrum, Wi-Fi, cellular, the IoT spectrum on the rise. And the goal of the industry, and I think all of my colleagues in the industry share this, is to remove the necessity for anyone to understand which spectrum they're using, whether it's Wi-Fi or cellular, long into the future, because they're all useful. They all have different properties that make them useful. And so Wi-Fi will be here for a very, very long time.
And 5G.
Yeah, and I think, Yoshi, I may maybe give you a Nokia perspective from here. Yeah. We've been in the telecommunications industry for a long time, both on the handset side, on the network side. You know, that is why we think 5G is not just about mobile radio. 5G is an end-to-end architecture. It has to be multi-network, whether it's mobile, cellular, whether it's Wi-Fi, whether it's fixed to the home, whether it is routing into the data center, it has to be multi-network. The second thing that's extremely important in 5G, it has to be multi-vendor, because you can't just say, I only work with my sets of technologies. That's why you can see on this panel is we believe it has to be multi-network, it has to be multi-vendor, and to the user, whether it's a professional user or a consumer user, the less they know what's behind the stage and they can seamlessly navigate to do their personal work or business productivity, I think that's what the promise of 5G from an end-to-end point of view is. So I think that's how we view it.
Yeah, because I think in the media, 5G is mostly about throughput, about how fast is the network, but you both seem to be saying it's more about the architecture that enables this seamless, how do you call it, not roaming, but
experience.
Seamless experience across various spectra.
And in fact, if you think about Miki-san's painting of the Rakuten brand and vision, whether you interact with Rakuten on mobile or payments or retail, you want to have a seamless experience for the customer. I think that's what we are trying to do.
Bhaskar, maybe reiterate an interesting point. I don't know if the audience know, probably the #1 5G application today is speed test. And I actually think that's laughable. So we think of just 5G as about speed. Of course, 5G is a lot more than speed. Latency becomes much, much more critical. Closer content to the user becomes absolutely necessary to deliver and drive the experiences you need. So it's really interesting to see sometimes the way that we portray 5G is just about speed. But speed becomes, to me, a secondary objective to what 5G will be able to do. It's about latency. It's about connectivity everywhere. It's actually almost like having wireless fiber with you. And the possibility of use cases are endless. So I think it's important as an industry as well that we need to recognize that 5G is beyond speed.
Okay. So
yeah, I think yes, 5G needs to interwork with the cyber world to provide the right service. So the cyber world now is powered by great ICT power, which can do a lot of things. And by interworking with cyber world, I believe that 5G can make a big transformation to the society and industry. And I think that's the real important point of 5G. It's not just a network technology. It has to work together with the cyber world to provide the service, and it should be more service-oriented. So the network for that should be not only just high performance, but also very flexible. And that's where the justification of virtualized RAN network is.
Maybe Watanabe-san, could you introduce, what we are doing together, for sub-6 antenna?
Yes. Well, in the 4G network, NEC is involved in OSS BSS area, which is operation support and business support system. But in 5G, we will be contributing by providing our radio unit. So NEC's massive MIMO radio unit can provide a good beamforming performance with very compact and light-weighted body with low power consumption. And I believe with these characteristics, we can help providing a good coverage of a 5G service, as well as reducing the installation cost and operation costs. So yes, I think we are doing the quite important part in the 5G network. And yes, now in the global market, many operators are becoming very interested in Rakuten's open virtualized RAN. So the contribution and success in Rakuten's 5G network will lead us to have more opportunity in the global market as well. So therefore, I am very much excited and very much motivated to accomplish this 5G project with Rakuten.
So what's interesting behind the scenes to build this architecture of ecosystem suppliers that Tareq and Miki-san have put together has fundamentally revolutionized our industry and how we work together as well. As Watanabe-san said, this open vRAN architecture, together the industry has come together with Rakuten to define architecture and use cases, but then also built an open source community so we can integrate and work together, yet still be able to build our products independently and our pieces of this puzzle that need to work. And it's the vision not only of what society could be, required a complete new vision of what the industry, the telecommunications and telecommunications supplier industry could be as well. And it took a little bit of time and a lot of work from you, Tareq, to get us there. But I think the industry really has come together and now built a new way to be a community of ecosystem partners that behind the scenes, someone walking down the street may not understand, but an entire industry has been revolutionized by Rakuten's vision of what the network could be and what the services could be that are delivered.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, to add to that, we get asked, all of us, quite a lot by operators around the world, investors and analysts around the world, what are you guys doing with Rakuten? What is happening there? I think there is a high level of curiosity that, what's happening out here, how will it really scale, how will it operate so that it can fundamentally change the economics of bringing a service to the end user. So I think that requires a very different approach.
So, assume, and we think this is going to happen, but Rakuten Mobile is going to be a huge success. Yeah, using this cloud network architecture. So, how does the industry look? Let's say in 5, 10 years, everyone's following our footsteps and sort of their network being like cloud driven, or what? Tareq, what do you think?
I think it's, Yoshi, it's inevitable. So I think if you don't innovate and you don't change the current course, I think the future is not very bright, my opinion. So moving to cloud computing, as I mentioned earlier, just study what the impact of cloud computing on just a traditional IT industry and the success they had and realized when they moved their workloads to the cloud. I am beyond confident that our cloud architecture is going to be brilliantly successful. I'm very happy that we have close cooperations with good ecosystem partners, and my belief based on the reaction that we're seeing from the industry as a whole is everybody is watching. Everybody is really watching and saying, is this real? Can this work? Is it going to be reliable? And to be honest with you, I spend most of my time explaining to people just the basic principles of cloud, which, to be frankly speaking, is missing in a traditional telecommunication organization. The skill sets that exist in a traditional telco is not oriented, in my opinion today, for a cloud-centric platform like the Rakuten mobile network is building. We're unique in the essence that our group company as a whole is not a telecommunication company. I always say that that's actually a very, very big advantage. We could draw from skill sets that the group as a whole has around IT, around cloud. So when we discuss things like what does it really mean to have microservices, cloud-native architecture, virtualization, these things we don't have to spend a lot of energy explaining to our own employees and staff how to implement and deploy into the network. So I think in general, I think it's inevitable that telecommunication companies have to go through this path. I think they want to go to that path The challenge that they have today, I don't think it's technology. I think it's just culture and organization. And these are the two large pieces that they're going to have to deal with.
So I agree. Most of the telecommunications industry, Rakuten is leading without a doubt, and looking at most of the industry in the rearview mirror. And they'll be learning from the history books what Rakuten has built on how to build their own network. And so this puts Miki-san and Rakuten in such a great position in the industry, leveraging off of the cloud DNA, as you said, Tareq, that the company has. What's been interesting on transforming our own companies between Nokia, Cisco, and NEC, it took companies to rise to this challenge where Miki-san and Tareq would require miracles on demand. And if something didn't exist, to invent it. And it's been a fascinating journey for all of us to rapidly go from a view of the industry as it may be, as it was, to where it's going to be and where it needs to be. And so that's been a fantastic explosion in a positive way of positive vision of the way telecommunications can transform the world and transform society.
Yeah. So Watanabe-san, you've been involved in the open RAN movement, and I think what we're discussing now, people have been discussing for years without not substantial materialization. So what is your thoughts around why was it like an outsider like Rakuten that is doing this and not the kind of this industry community, like open RAN movement?
Yes, well, yes, actually NEC has been participating to the Open RAN activity from quite early stage. And yes, I think, yes, Open RAN enables the ecosystem by multi-vendor. And now, because in 5G, as I said, the network needs to be service-oriented. And to do that, I think like a partnership like this will be very important. We need to, some company needs a new culture, and some company has a, each company has a different cutting-edge technology. And it is now required that multi-vendor, each vendor needs to take their cutting-edge technology to the network and combine them together to get the new innovation. So ecosystem has a lot more possibility to produce a new innovation which is required. And since the network now needs to be very flexible and keep changing, new innovations are always required. And to do that, I think this Open RAN mechanism can contribute a lot to make the network keeping evolved.
So I think, if I may add, I think it's not so much just about Open RAN. I think if you look at what Rakuten is trying to do, you are changing the industry from going to one player and saying, give me the whole thing, right? In the world of open and cloud, you are trying to go and decompose the layers and then say, you bring this layer, you bring this layer, I bring this layer. So therefore, I think it is very important that Rakuten has the internal skills to orchestrate all these layers from each one of us coming together exceptionally well. So I think this is more about the culture and the technology expertise an operator has in-house to orchestrate. Because otherwise, I think people always talk about open source this, open source that. Open source is all about having internal competency to orchestrate different pieces so that you get the agility and the benefit. So I think that is where, I think as we are seeing what's happening here, it'll accelerate that. That's how I think about from an open and cloud environment point of view.
And so Bhaskar, to that point, whether it's openness in the ecosystem and the radio access network, which is Open RAN, it's had ripple effects for open optical transport and connecting together based upon the internet and IP protocols such that multiple vendors' equipment, wherever it's located in the network, can be orchestrated and automated, and we work closely together to make sure that this can be done. And when you just take a look at Miki-san's picture of single identity on the mobile handset with full access to public cloud services and all of Rakuten services, being able to connect those together securely, to be able to orchestrate both the bandwidth and in particular the customer journey and the customer experience to make that happen, which is so important to Rakuten, really has had a very positive response by the industry across not only the layers, but across all the services that are necessary to deliver it.
Yeah. So why don't we just step back a bit and again, so because the discussion is very kind of tech-driven, so assuming this like cloud network is everywhere, what does that mean to the regular people? Specifically, how does that help, a regular user in terms of enhanced user experience? Tareq, you want to?
So I think earlier on, I think when Mickey shared a little bit of the key component on the 5G architecture, this concept of mobile edge compute is really, really critical. So I always argued that everything that we talk about in 5G is about hey, I'm getting 1 gigabit per second. But facts are, today in Japan, you could easily get 1 gigabit per second over LTE. So the implications of things like improved latency is actually much more important for things like maybe in the future edge TV application that we could do, better TV experience, better personalization on TV, consume content that you want. Things like cloud gaming have not been necessarily successful, and they're not successful because of latency. So I think the use cases towards consumers and home we're still scratching the surface. But the one thing that's exciting about 5G, truly 5G is not just another technology evolution. It is a revolution. It is a remarkably different technology. Today you might not realize it, but it will change everything that we do. It will change how we consume data, how we watch TV, how we interact with things that are at your home. So we've talked a lot about Internet of Things, but Internet of Things have not been very successful. It's been very, very fragmented, and I think 5G fixes that in every aspect. So I think we are at the early stages to discover the possibility of 5G, but the approach that we have to take, like when you build a house, when you build a skyscraper, your job as an architect is to focus on foundation. Our foundation is what we have spent a lot of energy on, and then the possibilities together we're going to discover. So when you see our Rakuten new discussion, walk together. Let's discover the possibility. Let's discover what 5G can do for society, for consumers, as well as for enterprise, as well as for verticals and industries like manufacturing and factory. The true 5G statement that you'll hear from Rakuten is all about the fundamental difference of our architecture from any telecom network across the world, and the ability to deliver the experiences to both consumer and enterprises, I think will be differentiated. So long story, I think it is still in early stages. Focus on architecture, and I think in the next year or so, you'll discover amazing possibilities at the home.
And so toward this end, Tareq, I can't wait to see the vision for the fan experience for Barca or for the Warriors, which is close to home for me. The notion of Rakuten Medical allowing me to quickly communicate when I'm recovering at home with my medical team with the push of a button. The notion of a cashless society. The notion of, as Tareq mentioned with IoT, that all my devices are known to be associated with my identity and I have privacy over that data. And it can be tuned and honed towards what I need as a member of society, again, whether it's the medical devices or my just social devices. Back to the fan experience. I would like my fan experience to be better than posting pictures to social media. No, I'd like it to be with the group that I go to the concert or to the sporting event. These fundamental changes of what a fan or consumer experience can be for what Rakuten can deliver across the stadiums and all of the different companies and properties they have, tied together, fundamentally changes that consumer experience, whether it's associated with media, broadcast, sports, medical, transportation with vehicles. Rakuten has the ability to change what it's like to be driven in an autonomous vehicle and change that experience of transportation. These are the use cases and the vision that Mickey has talked about that a network that like the one Tareq is building can deliver.
Yeah, I think I would add to that. I think that's I would add another complete different aspect. We feel like 5G is like the 1G for enterprise, if you really think about it. if you look at industrial productivity over the last 20, 30 years, how has that improved? I think 5G, with all its benefits of performance and latency and end-to-end, can really change how industries work with their operational technology. So far they've used, this will bring IT and OT together to really increase the overall productivity of enterprises, whether it's in manufacturing, logistics, healthcare. I think this is going to be a very different shift. Just as the initial networking brought to industry, I think this is going to be about operational technology beyond what we all see today.
Yeah. And of course, we're Rakuten and Nokia working on IoT.
IoT.
Yeah. Any specific vertical? From your experience working with operators, any specific verticals that sort of ahead of the game?
In fact, actually, I want to take a step back before we talk about, I think one of the reasons why, we've been talking about IoT for 5 years, 6 years now. I think IoT is going to be about ecosystem. It's about creating an application developer network of service providers like you, technology providers like us, but also app developers, vertical industries, system integrators. So I think that's where we need to create a platform, which is what we are working on. Now, there are certain industries that are ahead. I would say definitely in terms of transportation and logistics is definitely moving faster. I would say farming is another area where we are seeing a lot of good examples that are coming up. Healthcare, think about it. If you are in the emergency ER ambulance, as you are getting to the hospital, if you are already taken care, if you're already getting hospital-based medical care as you're getting transported, and that is going to change, those seconds are going to change life, right? So I think these are examples, some of the places where we are working together in creating an environment for third parties and industry to build the application.
In addition, to add to that, Bhaskar, sports, retail, and energy. And not only just energy production, but energy consumption and the use of sensor technology and IoT technology for carbon credit transfer and being able to reduce the impact of society on the planet itself. To be able to understand how these complex ecosystems work across manufacturing, healthcare, education, transport, energy, retail, et cetera, you need to collect data. To collect the data, Bhaskar, you're working on the IoT platform, we're all working on the communications platform to collect that data and be able to understand what's happening, to optimize it, make it more efficient, and make it more productive.
Okay, so we're about run out of time. So maybe I'll solicit final comments from each of you. Starting with Tareq.
I think just maybe at conclusion, I will tell you we talked a lot about technology. That's very, very exciting. I want to reemphasize my own personal journey into Japan. I think moving here in 2018 in June has been really a blessing for me personally. It's an emphasis of culture and diversity. It's beyond critical to really have diversity on how we approach everything. Diversity in thinking, diversity in opinion, diversity in gender, and being open-minded about embracing new technology. I think the opportunity for Japan is enormous, and it's been a privilege to be part of this journey.
And it's a privilege to be a part of the diverse ecosystem you've put together as well. This is one of the most exciting projects going on the planet right now in telecommunications, and we're extremely happy to be a part of it and plan on making it successful. Tareq.
Thank you.
Yes, as I said before, I'm very excited to be involved in realizing the virtualized RAN network in Japan. So yes, we will be working hard to realize it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think on behalf of Nokia, I would say it's an honor and a privilege for us to work with Rakuten across many aspects of this initiative that you are. And I think us being a global company, I think diversity, and I think we talk enough about technology. At the end of the day, it's about people and culture. That's what's going to change. Strategy gets eaten by culture. So I think that's where we believe as a global company, we can bring value together.
Great, thank you. Thank you for a very exciting discussion. Thank you. ありがとうございました。